Hi, John. Very nice to meet you, and welcome to my podcast. It's been a long time since we met. I think the last time I saw you in person was back in 2017. And as I was
Yes.
telling everybody here, John used to be one of the partners at Denim Group, and he was a mentor to me. He helped me. He saw me when I just joined the first job in US as a guy who just graduated from school and started working for John. It was a memorable path down the line. He taught me so many things. He was not just a partner. Everybody knew us. We were a small company, but everybody knew John because of his warm welcome that he used to give. And I'm pretty sure John will is going to say one specific story here. I know he's not going to miss it. But yeah, that made us the real bonding, right? That's what we love to work at Denim Group for. And now Denim Group has moved on and they're part of,
Coal
yeah.
fire. Yeah, they were acquired by Coal Fire in June of 2021. But the story that I can't not tell is when Krishnan came, he was right out of school, and our office was in the north side of San Antonio in kind of loop land where you had a big highway, and what we have in Texas, these access roads where everybody's going like 70 miles an hour. And our office was right off of the access road for a road called Loop 1604 in San Antonio. And Krishnan just did what people do when they move is they rent an apartment right down the street. But he didn't have a car at that time. So being the industrious person that he is, he got a bike and rode the bike to work a couple of times. And I think one or more of our project managers saw him on the access road and were so deeply frightened for his safety that we had to come up with a driving plan. And so we're like, no, we can't have that happen. We don't want to have him get in an accident. And then I think you got a car, and then
Yeah.
you learn how to drive by hitting other cars. And you
Yeah,
learn
that is funny. Yes.
it's like,
I was
so
the
I would
weird
just
guy.
say it was like, what happened to Krishnan today? Is he okay? Like I think in honesty, we had a sense of responsibility for all, particularly all the people that moved to San Antonio from India and other countries. Like there was some sense of just keeping them safe and okay. And so there we did that in a non-HR way just to make sure there was a buddy system. So that's the story. And if you're ever in San Antonio and you drive around Loop 604, the thought of anybody driving a bicycle on that access road is frightening. So that's our Krishnan story.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, John. I really appreciate that. But and
Mhm.
I mean, that's how we grew. I mean, he taught me a lot more things. I've known him and his entrepreneurial skills and stuff like that. So one thing I really want to explain to my audience is, John has a lot of experience as an entrepreneur. But John, why did you choose specifically cybersecurity? What was that reason? And I believe the first one was Denim Group started back in 1996 or so.
No, I think I mean like it's like many people, you don't just wake up and out of college and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. It's a series of smaller decisions that kind of lead to this point. And I recognized at an early age that I was a hard worker and I worked my tail off and I was in the US Air Force and traveled a lot and did a lot of cool things, but I worked all the time. And I just I realized I had a internal engine to do that. So I just remember, I think it was in my 20s where I said, well, shoot, if I'm going to do this, I might as well work for myself. And I started a dial-up ISP. That was the first thing I did in
Wow.
95 to 97. Like, I say dial-up ISP, this is going to date myself, but like dial-up, Trumpet Windsock, Mozilla, Eudora Light, Qt FTP on a 3.5 diskette. This is like 95.
Wow.
Yeah. It was neat. It was like the forefront of the internet. So that's the part that I liked a lot, is being on the bleeding edge of that. And but I didn't know what I was doing. And so I ended up selling that business in about 97 and got out with without going bankrupt. But it was a lot of work, a lot of hard. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's when I said, like, I'm going to go and learn how to do this and go work for some people that do. I went to Trident Data Systems and then the KPMG, and I worked at both those places for great teams, great business leaders, and I learned the specifics of cybersecurity. So I always was a practitioner. And by the way, I call it security because nobody mistakes me for a physical guard or anything like that. So I say security. But I was still in the Air Force Reserve and I was working in the Air Force Computer Emergency Response Team at night. So I was doing that like 95, 96, 97. But then I started working for a commercial consultancy doing it because I liked it. I always liked the spy versus spy thing. The fact that there's like a protagonist and an antagonist. There's like the good guys and then there's bad guys. And the bad guys could be, serial fraudsters, they could be hacktivists, or they could be nation states. But I always liked that fact. And then I just started, I realized kind of at that point that I wanted to be around it. And in 1999, I went to work at a company called Secure Logics in San Antonio that did voice firewalls, and they had a group of leaders that had just come off a successful acquisition in the form of Wheel Group. The CEO was a guy named Lee Sutterfield. They had another guy named Rick Jordan as their CFO, another senior leader named Susan Quidley, who had just come out of that acquisition. And I thought that was super cool. And I said, I want to do that. But I didn't know everything. So during that time, I also went back and got a MBA. This is circa 2001 to 2003. And I got an MBA at UT Austin, which is a hard program. And by the way, when I was single, real easy to do when you're single, harder to do when you're married. But I
I
did
know.
that because I really felt like at that point, you can't know too much, right? And one thing I learned when I did the ISP and when you're doing a company is it comes real fast. And I remember like accounts receivable. Let me go to Barnes and Noble at the time and buy a book on accounts receivable. Let's go on selling. I had bought every hard copy book on selling. And it was just like pretty humbling, but I recognized there's too much to learn to do it while you're running your company, right? So I finished the MBA. I realized after the MBA that I was probably going to not stay there. I'm probably going to do my own thing or do something.
Mhm.
And ironically, about that same time, excuse me, I bumped into Sheridan Chambers and Dan Cornell, who we knew each other through another person in San Antonio. And they were both developers or come from a development company. And I was a security guy. So this was about the time that the first injection flaw started to come out, the first, real like web app vulnerabilities. If you remember companies like At Stake and Foundstone and others. And so it was like, that'd be cool to do a regionalized version of that. And that's what we did with Denim Group. I jokingly said it was the peanut butter and chocolate to make Reese's cups, the American candy that's a combination. It was like security development. And and our original strategy was to just sell to anybody that was one Southwest Airlines hop away from San Antonio because we didn't want to fly to Boston or New
Yeah.
Jersey, fly to Houston. And Texas is big enough. There's enough companies here. But it worked. And the way I got into it, I would just say to wrap up is wasn't direct. I didn't wake up at 23 or 24. I just did it. And I know there were certain key moments and things that I said, well, I might as well know this. I might as well do this. And I ended up here. And that's where I'm at.
That's so nice. And you're telling about getting books. That's something like I don't know how many of the new gens can relate to because today everything is Google, everything is, people. I mean, I've come to a point when even the research, a lot of it is happening in ChatGPT. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying his daughter, who goes to sixth grade or fifth grade, she decided to do her homework by just asking ChatGPT on the phone rather than even doing
Yeah.
it.
Well,
So
there's that too. And let me add one other thought too. I was fortunate, I think, blessed, whatever way you want to interpret. I mean, I also had some things that broke my way at the key points. So I would like to think this was all my doing, but it wasn't. And I had great team members and all this, and we had some things that went well for us at the right time. And we avoided the biggest mistakes, which is, but I would say this. Don't get caught up in the books part. The if you're not a reader, then listen, do Audible, do podcasts, do whatever, ChatGPT. But the point being is that you can't know too much. And part of the way that I got into the world around AI was in 2018. I wrote down like learn AI. That was like on my to-do list, my bucket list for 2018 was like learn
Wow.
AI. And it was very ambitious and kind of really early. And AI in 2018 was really machine learning. But I put in for a presentation at RSA
Mm.
on how to vet vendor claims on AI, and it got accepted. And I was like, oh, whoa, I really got to learn it now. So there was nothing. You talk about like, there's no books, there's no nothing. This is, before ChatGPT, before anything. And so it's kind of cool. And it's kind of so but my point being is I did that because I couldn't have done that presentation if I hadn't already started to think about it and read about it and be mindful about it, whatever way you do. At the time it was books, but now it would be YouTube or Udemy or Coursera or ChatGPT.
Or
But at the
podcast.
time, but at the time it was books, or at the time it was just like hardcore learning or some focused and dedicated time to learn it. So by the time that happened, it occurred. And then fast forward to after I left Coalfire, after the acquisition, that was really my focus in 2023 was a deeper dive on AI for no particular reason. For no particular reason, but to learn it, really learn it. This is again November 2022 is ChatGPT, OpenAI. And I said, well, fortunately, I don't have a job and I'm looking around, but the point being is I learned it enough where I had an option a year later to really start a company around this because lo and behold, I look up and I was like, shoot, I know this as well, if not better than most people, certainly most people in cybersecurity. And that was kind of but it didn't happen by accident at all. There's a lot of mindful study. So again, I wouldn't get caught up in the mechanism, books versus audio versus YouTube versus whatever. It's just like it's a thing. And or put it another way, if you expect to learn everything you need to know for the future by osmosis on a 8-hour shift, you're not going to learn it. You know what I'm saying? There's just too much to learn to think that you're going to do it during your day job. And in
Yeah.
order to prepare for the next role, to be ready for that next role, whatever it is, there's some focus learning, self-learning that you have to do. And I'm good at I think I'm good at that. I mean, I don't mind doing it. I'm curious, I like it. And so, but that's served me well and helped me put me in positions to do stuff. By the way, I'm a political science major. I'm not a CS major.
I understand. Oh, wow, that's great. And John, you know what? One thing I've worked with you in the 2.5 years I spent with you, one thing I've realized is your vision. You are such a beautiful visionary. Every company meeting that I've come to, every time you've come and talked about us, you had always had something to say what we're going to do next. And that always used to seem to come true or seem to come to action somehow. So that's
Thank you.
something I've,
I didn't
that's
know
something
that. Okay.
that's
Woo!
something I've always noted. And and think about it, right? In 2018, when we were not really thinking about AI, you were already ready with AI. So that
Well, I
you
want to
came
say
through it.
this, and it wasn't all about me. I mean, again, we had Sheridan, Dan, and an entire management team. I think there was it wasn't so much the vision. I mean, thank you for that. Maybe that just came out. We had a overarching mission, which is to build a world where software was trusted. And that just
Yes.
by having that was our big, hairy, our audacious goal, BHAG. But by having that central thing, then it just made everything easier. So the funny thing you say that, I don't even remember a lot of that. And maybe it just happened because it was driven by this more overarching goal. The other thing I would tell you that served us well, and this is more Sheridan and Dan, we didn't take ourselves too seriously. We took our the mission seriously. We took the fact that we employed over 100 people very seriously. We took our client work very seriously, but we didn't take ourselves very seriously. And there's always a lot of self-effacing humor, a lot of, Dan is a funny guy.
I
Uh,
know.
and the amount of jokes that the three of us traded around, and we still do, by the way. And so that is a good coping mechanism because the pressure cooker of being a business leader running your own company is extreme at times. It's very high. I like to say high highs and low lows.
Yes.
And but I think that helped us too. Is in addition to having that overarching mission, we also like had fun and didn't take ourselves too seriously. Do you remember the happy birthday song that I would
I
do?
remember. How can we ever
I'm
forget
not
that one?
I'm not going to do it here, but like for the people listening, and I don't even know how it started, but we'd have a company-wide meeting, and I think we had a birthday cake one time, and I had it, and someone asked me to sing "Happy Birthday," and I can't sing at all. So it was like the word, it was like I don't even know how to describe. It was like animals screeching, and I did it, and then it was off tune. And that was how we started every company meeting from that point on. So it's
From
kind
that
of
point, yes.
but,
Every meeting we started with the off-tune happy birthday.
happy birthday to
but
yeah. So we
but it
had
was
stuff like that. It was pretty funny.
yeah, it was fun. And John, one thing that I wanted to ask, right? Like, oh, I mean, we talk about books. Yes, books always helped us to read. And even me growing up, I did read a lot of books. But now we are moving in time, and that's also happening in the cybersecurity world. So, as an entrepreneur, you have done so many things. You explained how you started in 1996. You led Denim Group, which we all used to call DG, and then after that, I know you took projects like working at the San Antonio airport. You were part of that chair for making things bigger, and I've seen you in doing a lot of things around San Antonio. You have been a community leader in San Antonio, but your focus was always on cybersecurity.
You got
What
it.
can you tell to my viewers? Like, how is the landscape of cybersecurity changing? Is it, and we always see there's need for a lot more people, but we don't see good people coming in. I mean, good and there's always a short of talent. So why is this gap? What is happening there?
Well, I mean, it's gotten bigger, more fragmented, more deep, so like AppSec is its own vertical area of expertise. And I don't, versus like SOC analysts and versus other things. It used to be in the early 90s that or the 90s. Wow, that sounds like a long time ago. People are gonna say, "That guy's old." Yeah, I am old. I am old. That's but there I think people are generalists, and you could be a generalist and know a bit about everything. And like when you tested for the CISSP, that you probably knew 8 or 9 of the core bodies of knowledge. And now I think it's so in depth that like you probably know 1 or 2 and don't know anything else about physical security or identity management. So I think the verticalization, the depth of it, that's obviously one thing. It moves exceedingly fast. And so keeping up, this is back to the self-learning thing. Keeping up with the changes is a chore, but if you like it, it's not a chore. If you don't like it, it's absolutely a chore. And I actually spoke to a bunch of high school seniors about 5 months ago on this topic. And I said, make your work your hobby and vice versa. Like if you enjoy what you do, then it's not hard to, keep track of this stuff. If it's drudgery, like I got to go back and learn about SQL injections, and it's like, ugh, if there's lack of curious nature, then you're not going to learn this, and you're going to do the bare minimum, and you're going to fall behind. But so I think on one hand, it's going faster. It's professionalized in big time. Um, I would say this is kind of interesting. I think the biggest effort now, and a lot of my effort, was to convince non-technology executives to spend more money on cybersecurity. So CEOs, CFOs, boards of directors, business unit VPs, that's the hardest thing because they don't understand a lot of the techie stuff. They don't understand, the challenge that we have with cybersecurity is you could do nothing and not get hacked, or you could do everything and still get hacked, and that's hard to explain to business people who have a more risk-based approach. So there's that too. And so I think for me, convincing and explaining the risk of this and having non-technical executives spend more of their time and resources on cybersecurity. Because, I mean, you know this too. You've been there. Like, you see companies that do far less than what they should.
Yep, I've seen that.
Like,
Yes.
this is what they should do, and they do this. Particularly in AppSec. AppSec, people push out app builds, they push out mobile products with without testing or with just surface level testing, you know.
That's a question. This is a question that I want to ask you. There's always a short for talent in application security. Why?
Yeah. Well, because it's two hard things. One, you have to be a talented developer to understand it, and then you have to be crazy enough to want to learn security and know that pretty well. Those are the two things. But the other thing, the most talented AppSec people are the ones that think non-traditionally, that know how to develop abuse case tests, that know how to think contrarian, and that's the hardest thing to do. Like it's easy to do QA, did the app do this and go through a checklist, QA checklist. That's straightforward. But to walk in and look at an app and go and to do a threat model and sit up on a whiteboard and say, wait, what about this over here, this web service call?
Yep.
And like look at a system or an app and be able to like instantly figure out how to break it. That is a talent that is rare. And I think we did a really, really good job at Denim Group of collecting those people that thought in a way that was highly valuable. And that's the challenge with AppSec is a good AppSec person, he comes from a variety of backgrounds, including potentially gamers, that
Yes.
know how to probe and know how to think, but they also know how to say, wait a second, they know how to look at something in the non-linear way, I guess is another way to put it. So that's why.
One thing I would like to add about Denim Group is not only collect those people, but they also to mentor them and train them. I can probably say now I'm a lead here, and I would not have been able to do this without being at Denim because there were mentors who guided us in the right path, showed us how to test. I mean, I was a raw talent. Putting that together into a path and show us how to grow, and that really started a DG. And I'm
You were a
really
raw talent. I wrote that down. Raw talent. Uh, but I mean, and we had guys like Cap Diebel, obviously Kyle Hank,
yes,
Bytewhisper CTO, they were just good at it. And there was a lot of teaching, a lot of mentoring, partially because we had to. I mean, there's a lot to learn, but also it just kind of came naturally. So, and I would say I've been in other environments, no names, but I've been in other environments where that doesn't exist. And
yes,
you're like, wait a second, when you come in a culture where I felt that that was the way it was in the Air Force, at least the units I was in, there was very much a collective effort to bring people up to speed in Denim Group, and we hope to replicate that at Bytewhisper, which is there's just too much to learn, a lot of cross-pollination, a lot of mentoring, and that's it just comes natural for some of us.
yes. That does. And since you're talking about Bytewhisper, why don't you go a little bit into what's Bytewhisper? What are they focusing on? I know they're focusing on LLMs and stuff like that, but let's go a little bit into what's Bytewhisper and what's the idea behind it.
So we're this is really just about 13 months old. Not even that, really. Myself and Kyle Hankins, who's the other founder and CTO, both Denim Group guys. Kyle and I, Kyle worked for Cap in the delivery part of Denim Group. And so we really didn't work that closely. And he was on a couple of big clients. So we didn't day-to-day work with each other. But whenever I went to Denver, which is where Kyle lives, I'd always go hang out with him or grab a beer or do something. So we always kind of had like this relationship. I don't even know why in a cosmic way, but then we started talking and I found out that he was dabbling in the
John, one thing,
LLM.
you had relationship with every single person in DG.
Oh
That
no,
was
that's
so
not
good.
you. You're being too kind, but we started talking about this and it kind of evolved and we realized we both had a passion for this. And we also recognized that, wow, number one, cybersecurity is not fixed, AppSec is not fixed, maybe worse off. And then, oh my gosh, AI could go either way. And what happened is I started talking in November, December of 2023 to a bunch of former Denim Group clients. And I just found out one after another was struggling with this particular issue, that they didn't have anybody that understood data scientists. And if they did, they weren't in the security group, they were in the business side of the business, right? They weren't in the security. So we focused on what came naturally to us, which is kind of the confluence of AppSec and AI, which is really around, AI code, AI generated code, and really the security around that process in the environment, which is pretty broad. I mean, so to put it another way, our BHAG is going to be focused on, a world where AI safety happens for clients, where clients can roll out AI in a safe and secure way. There's all these different ways to say it, but I really feel like we're in the same position that AppSec was in 2004, where suddenly developers are just developing code and outpacing security's ability to do it in a safe way. So we are most certainly aware of clients and prospects that are using ChatGPT to develop code, AI copilots to develop code with little or no thought of guardrails or security. And so that was really what motivates us is to,
And,
again, to get in front of that.
and as a cyber entrepreneurist, I want to ask you one question. We are starting to hear news. A few days ago, Salesforce just came out and said we are not going to hire. We are just going to use AI to do the coding. Google calls out they're doing 60% or 45% or whatever, some percentage. Amazon is stating like that. So, e- should we be worried, or is this need for more security people to look at those codes important? What's going to happen?
I mean, I think this is like another massive shift in industry. I think the people that are good at their jobs and know how to leverage AI are going to be even better off. I see the world of the future, I think, is going to be comprised of people that are quite bright, but also know how to use AI. There are probably certain types of roles involving rote processes and things like that that are at risk, but less so in our world, less so in the IT and security world. If you're a paralegal or if you're doing certain things that are, again, repetitive, that could probably already be candidates for automation before AI, are probably even more at risk at this point. So I think if you think of it this way, well, you're too young to remember this, but I remember a world without email, without mobile phones, and there are some people that made that leap intuitively. I mean, I have a Palm Pilot. I have multiple Palm Pilots. I have Microsoft mobile devices. I have a collection of all the old devices and the
Wow.
first Apple, but people just kind of natively figured it out. Well, there was a bunch of people that didn't. And those are the ones that are probably going to be at risk. And one of the things we're trying to do at Bytewhisper is build a company from bottom up with AI in mind. So in addition to doing customer work and that the nature of what we do, but like building the infrastructure with AI in mind. So we use AI companion for Zoom on every meeting. It helps a lot. I use Loom. If you've ever used Loom to capture practices and recurring processes to do asynchronous communications. And basically Loom is pretty cool because it captures a web session you can go around in a web environment or in a desktop environment and essentially capture a business process. And then once you have it captured, you can send it to everybody and just play that over and over. And I'll give you a great example. I'm about to do that tonight. And we started a new process for adding a new client basically when we have a new client project, there's a series of steps that you have to do that includes setting up something in a directory in the server. You have to do a billing, all these different things. Well, I'm going to record that in a Loom, and it'll be there for posterity until we change the process. And it has AI creates a summary, and there's a transcript. So like I don't have to teach it 8 times. I did a Loom. So I hope that doesn't make it so people like me don't do mentoring and training. Of course it won't. But what it'll do is like for repeated processes, adding clients into our CRM. Here's how I want it done. And I record that. Here you go. And then I don't have to have that conversation anymore. So that's scalability. So we're doing that from bottom up right now.
Sure. Thank you. So we are running out of time, but that was really nice talking to you and talking to you about AI and how it's going to help us. Um, definitely I'm going to call you back after a little while and ask about more about Bytewhisper and what we're doing. But John, I really appreciate you coming
No,
on.
it was great to reconnect. I just want to say, like, embrace the gray hair. It's very
Uh-huh.
attractive now.
Sure, thank you.
And I had to get that one in there too to make you blush. Uh, we have to do this again soon. I will, like I said, I'll be at RSA Black Hat. I'll be around, and next time I'm up in the New York, New Jersey area, I have to remind myself to come and give you a holler. So,
Definitely, we're going to catch up with a beer. Sure.
all right, cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, bye.